Welcome to La Jefa Experience, the place where moms in any stage of motherhood come to get tools, tips, and support to thrive as the CEO of their life and family.
Hello, Jefas all over the world. Welcome to La Jefa Experience. I am your host, ROCIO Cisco, and on the show with me today, I have a very special guest, Jen McMaster. Did I say that correctly, Jen? McMaster.
100%. You nailed it.
Okay. All right, cool. Jen McMaster, lifestyle architect, is here with us today. And you guys know how I like to do my podcast. I just like to jam and converse and have a conversation for all of us that are tuning in. So Jen, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what exactly is a lifestyle architect? So please.
Yeah, what is that? I get asked that a lot. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background and how it's evolved and why I've come to refer to myself as a lifestyle architect. So my background is kinesiology and health promotion specialist. So for the last 20 years, I've been working with people on figuring out what does health and well-being look like for them? What does that look like for a community? What does that look like for families and populations across Canada and in different places of the world where I've lived and worked? And I loved it. I love my work. I love the background and what that brought to my life and provided me in terms of working experiences and meeting people and connecting with them. And then I realized that there was just so much more learning to happen to work with people and really work with them in a sustainable way that made sense for them. So I continued training and I got certified Storywork coach through Enlifted. And then I realized, being a mom of two, I wanted to go out into the world and do my own thing. You know, I had worked in public health for so long. And as I was setting out to start my business, I was like, people are like, well, it sounds like you're a life coach, but coach doesn't resonate with me because I've never described myself as an athlete. I'm not into team and organized sports. So it just didn't ring true for me. What I felt like, though, was that I'm helping people create and design their lifestyles. And to me, that felt like the science and art of architects. So there we had Lifestyle Architect was created.
I love that, Jen. I love that it wasn't authentic to you. So you weren't just going to like slap it on your title. That's awesome.
That really mattered to me. Stepping into these next chapters of my life was really doing things in a pace and with a lot of space to feel what was authentic to me and what really rang true for me, because I had spent a lot of time in my life thinking I was doing that, but not fully doing that. And that was one of my big life lessons in the last, 5 to 6 years. Sorry, laundry's going. You know how it is as a mom. So it's
mom
ringing
mode,
in the background.
mom mode. I love it.
Mom mode. You're always on. You're always in.
Jen, no worries. I have a sound machine on in the background singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So don't worry about it.
I love it. I love it. And you might hear my cat because I'm also a mom to a furry little cutie. So there's that.
Oh my goodness. All good then. No worries.
Yeah. So it was really important to integrate that and embody that in my work going forward. So if it doesn't ring true, I'll sit with it for a little while and try to feel where the alignment is and lean into that more.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I heard, and I already kind of knew, but I want the audience to really, really hear what you said. Mom of two.
Mom of two, special
Mom
little humans. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Archer and Jade.
How old?
Archer's 8, Jade's 6.
Fun ages. Oh my, Jen, I have a 2-year-old, so I think I could wait.
I've seen him in the background with Angelo on some of our calls. He's just a little sweetheart.
He's so funny. He's so funny. It's such a special time right now. That's why when you say 6 and 8, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even think that far ahead. Like, I don't think I want to, just be in the present moment and enjoy what's happening now.
Yes, yes. I remember being in those early stages of motherhood, and I described them to my girlfriend as being in the weeds. I felt
Yeah.
often overwhelmed. I didn't feel mindful and present as much as I would have liked to have been. And that was one of the big learnings, and creating that space and pace in my life where work would fall in after I've planned my mothering, and how I can show up for my kids and what they need, so that there was more harmony there. Whereas before, I felt like I definitely leaned into my strengths and what I knew as an employee, as a worker at, in public health. So that's shifting for me now, where I'm getting that mindfulness and presence. So it's very nice to hear when moms are tapped into that when their kids are so much younger, because it gives them that much more time of grateful time with their kids, really.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for seeing me that way. That's definitely how I would love to be seen in this world. And it's why I started this podcast, because I want to show fellow moms that is possible for them in any stage of motherhood. I mean, you have a 6 and an 8-year-old, right? And you just admitted to not really being there early on that way. So I don't think it's too late for any of us to even start to shift and transform that type of life. So that's partly why I was so drawn to have you on this podcast, was because I saw that you were a mom of 2, and this is a podcast for moms that are the CEOs of their life and their family. So I like to teach moms how to do that it is possible for them to be in tune with what they want, they need, and they desire, and to also be in tune with their family system and their family life, and be the best mom that they can be. So that's partly why I wanted to have you on. And then the other part was, I know that you're doing work with special forces and men, as like, to be specific. And I love that. I absolutely love that, because you also know that my husband, Angelo, is in that type of work. And when I hear a woman that's interested in that kind of work to help men heal, I'm instantly like, that's my girl. We're going to be friends. We're going to be cool. and we have other things in common. So let me just talk to Jen and see what she's up to and what her gifts are in this world. And, I won't have to guess. So yeah, let's
thank you. Thank you.
Definitely. You're welcome. My pleasure. So before we get into all that, I feel like there's so much we could get into. Tell us how you got to this place in your life where you were like, I want to help people and I want to help them transform their lives, and I want to be a lifestyle architect. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, so that goes way back. I've always had this flame for helping people. That's how I showed up in my family dynamics. I was the baby of the family. I could have levity in situations, harmonize, diffuse situations, and then go in and, help everybody kind of navigate situations or, family dynamics. Yeah. And then maybe early teens, I hit some really gritty experiences. My mom almost died. That emotionally upset me. And I wasn't skilled at the time, like a lot of teenagers. And I withdrew, and I got into some gritty, challenging situations. I almost failed out of school. I developed an eating disorder. I was very self-destructive. It was my misinformed way of coping with what I was going through at that time. And then I came to this point where it was like, okay, I can keep doing this thing or these things that I'm doing, and I will end up, kind of a predictable path, or I can change. And in that moment, I realized I can change. I don't have to change at all. I just have to start making small little adjustments to the way I'm showing up in the world. I started exercising to get some of that anger and frustration out. And that was just, magic for me. And so, buckled down, set some goals, did the transformation process, and finished school, and went on to specialize in exercise and human movement and how all of that stuff comes together for people. And then continued, to work on myself, and through professional and personal realms did, further learning and, practices and things like that. And when I started working with people, I loved it. I was lit up. I was passionate about it. It was, a little tool here. Oh, here, try this. Or, this is what I'm doing to manage, this piece of, stress or anxiety or, low self-worth. Like, here, try this. Because it's not just about the exercise. It's about all those little pieces that come into it. So that was like early 20s that I started doing that and loved it. Did that for a number of years in gyms and fitness facilities. I did corporate health and well-being for a while. And then I got interested in doing a little bit more. How do I build that out? How do I expand that? Because people were coming and moving and feeling great. And they were, implementing these tools and doing so well. And then it was almost like, poof, they disappeared. And I was so curious, like, where are these people going? They're feeling better. They're moving more. They're managing life well, according to them, whatever metrics that was for them.
Yeah.
Like, where are they going? What's happening? And of course, it's all of the other stuff that gets in the way. It's the momming and the work and the family demands and the financial strains and all of the things. So I went back to school and I got a master's in health promotion to look at that more broad, holistic view of the human experience. And how do you really start working with people beyond movement as a tool? So how do you work with them spiritually, emotionally, mentally, socially? How do you talk about finances with somebody who's struggling? Yeah, like you could tell them, like, here's the best program for you, X, Y, Z. But if they're worried about losing their house or not being able to feed their kids, they're not going to do the thing, even though they know that they can. And then working again, just building that out and working with people and seeing that change and transformation just lights me up.
Love that. I knew that we would be soul sisters. We have very similar paths, my friend. Very similar. I almost feel, and tell me what you believe in respect to this. The fitness and your, like, a body transformation can really be the gateway to everything else. I've had that experience too, and I've seen it. I coach CrossFit for 7 years. I've seen it where people will come in, they will realize that they really are the bosses of their physical fitness and transformation, and they could do this. Okay, now I'm empowered and I know and I feel that I can do other things too. So it starts to.
Absolutely. And I think with that physical transformation, there's a few tools that you can implement right away that people will feel. They have a almost instant physiological, neurological change in their bodies, sleep, eating well, moving their bodies. And then they can see those transformations happening, and it's that inspiration that starts moving them. And I will sometimes leverage that to then help them with maybe the trickier concepts that there might not be open to just yet, the spiritual side, and thinking about values and principles, like what does that look like in action, really truly consciously creating their lives. Every moment along the path there is a choice. And doing nothing is also a choice, but at least you're consciously making that choice. And then from there, further expansion and growth. Yeah,
that's amazing. I'm a firm believer in that too. Every little decision that you've made up until this point has brought you here. So you are the architect of your life.
Yeah.
And when you're not exposed to those things, right? And like, I'm sure you see this with your clients, when you're not exposed to it, or you don't know anyone that has actually done that or believes that, it's so not in your realm of that. So you just go through life doing the thing, being the person, and then before you know it, you're at a crossroads where it's like, where do I go? What do I do? I feel lost.
Yeah, feeling very disconnected from your authentic self, that true inner essence. And I think that radical responsibility is like, wow, I get to consciously create my life experience. And with that, it's like, oh, I also have to radically accept all that shit I did too. Oopsie.
Yeah.
Have some grace, have some self-compassion, and then start moving forward. And that can be the tricky sticking point for a lot of people I work with.
I believe that is the sticking point for society as a whole right now, Jen.
Boom, you said it. I love it.
Seriously, because there's this like fake wokeness going on right now where people are like consciously judging other people that maybe they've never learned, they've never judged them before or been judged before that way, but that's not what being awakened is. Being awakened isn't being openly judgmental about your fellow human. It's accepting the fact that your fellow human is not like you and is completely different than you.
And that it's very okay.
And
that's
it's okay.
The life, the differences. And I think that's where we have the opportunity to be curious and learn and grow ourselves as a collective. I think that mark is often missed.
So much. It's very, it brings me sadness. Like we talk openly about life and these things that are going on in life in our home, and we don't have a TV, Jen.
Neither do I.
I love, see, I knew it. No
that is
TV.
Too funny.
Yeah, we moved out to California and we're like, nope, we're not going to have a TV in the home. We have a baby now, and if we're tempted to do it, then we're going to pass on a habit. So we don't need it.
Yeah.
So
full disclosure, we don't have a TV. My kids do have little iPads that they do have access to in moderation. But the idea of TV as a source of family entertainment is something that I'm not comfortable with at this point in our lives.
Yeah, us either. And all that not to say also as well, full disclosure, like my son watches things on YouTube, and I would never judge another mom for it, and I would never expect someone to judge me for it, right? Like, so I'm like, to each their own. I'm a firm believer in people doing what is best for them and their families, even if it doesn't look like what I do. So
absolutely.
So that's where, like, going back to the society as a whole with what you said about having compassion and accepting both sides, right? Of the fact that you are the lifestyle of your architect, you are the architect of your life, and every decision that you made up until this point, it brought you here. And also, you're going to screw it up.
That's the lessons. That's where we have, I don't know, I do believe in post-traumatic growth and the theory that some of our best growth opportunities, learning, healing, are from those really gritty, tricky goof ups, full out fuck ups, like, because it gives you that chance to shake up your reality and go, okay, whoa, I'm in some stuff. Yeah. The key, and what I loved about the Enlifted program, was it gives you the language to process, to frame, so that you can say, yes, this isn't exactly ideal or the way I would have hoped for it. Next time I can do this, I will try to do that differently if I would like to. Yeah, definitely. I loved the Enlifted program.
They need to be in schools. It needs to be in schools. I was mind blown when I realized and learned what I learned there. I was like, why is no one else doing this in school? Why aren't our kids learning this stuff?
Mind blown experience with Enlifted. One of the first things that we had to do was identify our conflict language. And I remember being like, I don't really have any conflict language. I'm like optimistic. I'm super positive. I'm sunny and bright. And then like, I really learned what conflict language was. And I was like, shocked, super grateful that I had that moment of awareness and learning. But at the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, you mean it doesn't have to be that hard with my inner narrative and the stories that I was dragging around for all those years. It's like, oh, I can rewrite this literally and change the game.
Yeah, I enjoyed that experience so much. I am very fond of Mark and what he's doing, and Adam and everybody. I love the Enlisted family. They just have created such a beautiful community there.
Oh, absolutely. I even have my oldest son, he's working with an Enlifted coach right now to get started with that early on. And you might be able to relate to this as a mom, but I find I can say it to my kids and they're like, yeah, but you're kind of just my mom. When somebody else says it though, there's that reinforced message. And I'm like, oh yes. They're like, hey mom, you were right. I'm like, it's not about being right. However, it's nice. It's a small win for mom.
I don't have that with my son just yet because he's 2. I have that with my husband.
That's awesome.
I tell him
small victories, I'll take them.
I tell him to do things and he waits for like one of his guy friends to tell him. I'm like, wait, didn't your wife tell you this like a week ago? I'm like, that's where
that distance comes, right? Working with a coach or having a circle that you can talk with. It's like, oh, there's some distance. And definitely in intimate relationships, partnerships, family, it can be a little too close to be like, oh, maybe they're saying something on point.
Oh, I definitely had that experience with my mom. So I could relate to what you're saying. I know now I will eventually experience that with my 2-year-old because, well, guess what? Like things come around and, you know, my mom kept telling me, you're going to know, you're going to learn when you have your kids, you're going to realize how this is. And I called her a couple months ago, bawling my eyes out, apologizing to her every which way that I could for just giving her such a tough time. And, you know, you don't know until you know. And when you know, you're like, okay. The grace.
You have that moment where you're like both grateful and apologetic. You're like, thanks, mom. Thanks, dad. Also so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And yet another opportunity to accept your past mistakes and learn, right? And move forward with it. So let's go back to that because I do love that you said that about learning from them and having the grace having grace for yourself. I'm so big on grace. And it's a daily practice, right? Daily practice of forgiving yourself and forgiving others. So yeah, it's definitely something we're missing in society. That's what we were saying. Something that we're missing in society today. Because what we see now is the judgment for another person's past, right? Or God forbid you did something 10 years ago on MySpace, because if somebody finds out about it, good Lord.
I know. It breaks my heart. It does break my heart when I see people, you know, that cancel cultured. I'm not on the, you know, news feeds or social media too much, but every once in a while I come across, you know, a politician being shamed for something he did in college. And it's an interesting because you do have to hold tension. You have to hold the idea that, okay, well, it isn't right by today's standard. I have to, there's lots of tension being pulled, and I have to have the empathy for perhaps a group that is upset by this. And it's very uncomfortable. And I think we're often socially too quick to be like, no, let's not deal with it. Let's just shut it all down. Let's not try to understand and have a conversation. And with that mutual respect of, and willingness to understand. I will be willing to understand your side. Please be willing to understand mine. And together we can both grow and change the world. Yeah. And that's, I see that often now not happening. It's just shut it down. It's too uncomfortable. And I don't know if we're taught, let me know your thoughts on this, the art of compassion, which then allows for forgiveness.
Yeah, no, we're not taught that. I don't believe many people grew up in that kind of space. I'll tell you what, it's something that I'm consciously doing with my son now, and it's a practice. Yeah. Because it's so easy to just today, for instance, they called me from the place that he was staying at. They watch him at the fitness facility I go to, and he's in a stage where he wants to touch other kids, where he pushes or he pulls, and he's developing. It's part of his development, and he understands a certain part of it, but another part of him is curious. What's going to happen when I push? What's going to happen when I pull? And well, it's so easy for me to start feeling all these feelings in the moment when they're telling me your son pushed someone. We had to give him a timeout, and I want to be like, I usually am like, you're not supposed to do that, right, babe? It's not kind to do that. And I see his face. I see the shame in his face. As a 2-year-old, I can already see it and sense it. And it breaks my heart, Jen, where, instantly I'm like, it's okay to make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. And we don't touch people. We don't push people. It's not kind to do. So
yeah, and helping them explore that feeling. Like, are you pushing out of anger? Are you playing? What's happening? What's coming up for you as a little human in this world? Figuring it out. Why? Yeah. I get right down with my kids. Like, okay, so why did that happen? Why was that your choice in this moment? Yeah. Why did you hit your brother? Why did you push your sister? We were playing and it got out of hand, or she angered me. It might be a little bit more like, 8-year-old and 6-year-old kind of explosive, but that's what they're starting to do, is identify they're having emotional responses to the world. And okay, let's regulate, let's breathe. Let's talk about some other choices you had access to, like walking away, coming to get me, using your words, all of the things, so that they feel empowered in those moments, right? And that they feel like we're understanding them as well.
Yeah, totally. And it's when you weren't taught that, it's so much work to consciously just be ahead of it. And you know what? I'll scratch that. I don't want to say it's so much work yet. It is intentional. It needs to be intentional. So I am completely there with you. You know what's funny? I watched a documentary yesterday. Have you watched the Bob Ross documentary on Netflix?
No, I haven't.
Do you know who Bob Ross is?
I want to say, you tell me. I think he wrote a book. Did he not?
He wrote books. He's a
development
painter. He's a painter.
Oh, okay. No, that's not who I was thinking.
Okay, so Bob Ross, he's got the fro, and he's a painter, and he made painting so like fun for people all over the world, because he would teach people how to paint and empower them to be an artist, to paint themselves. And because he was teaching them on TV, they were doing what he was doing, and people were all over the world became inspired to create and paint because of this man. And he would, I thought it was interesting because he wouldn't call failures. He would call them happy mistakes.
Oh.
And while he was painting, he would like screw up and very calmly, I mean, you got to look him up, Jen, because you're in Lifted and you know exactly what low and slow does to the cadence.
And it sounds a little bit like Goody Goody Gumdrops.
Yes. So this man was doing all of that before this was even like, you can tell. What I loved about Enlisted is it makes you so conscious of a good speaker when you see one, when you hear one, and when you see one. And this man had it down. He was hypnotizing the entire world and didn't even know it.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I will certainly check him out. I have a little sheet of notes here. So he's on that. I thought he was an author for child development, but different person. I'm glad I clarified. I'm excited to tune into this.
Check it out. And the reason why I brought that up was because of the how he referenced failures and errors on a canvas, just much like in life, right? They're not failures. They're not errors. They're not fuck ups. They're happy mistakes. You learn from them. And you get to be a better person.
What comes from potential mistakes, like taking the wrong turn and you end up in a beautiful new town, or you know what I mean? It's not always the worst thing to happen is making a mistake. Sometimes beautiful things happen. So I like that. I'll check him out. Maybe he'll inspire me to be more artsy. I'm looking for a creative outlet. So this might be.
Ooh, I like it.
Avenue. Yeah.
Tell us more about that. Tell us more about your curiosity to get a creative outlet at this moment.
Okay, so I did the personal podcast project with Rick Alexander. So he had me fill in some surveys. I know, he's so great. Surveys, questionnaires, all of this stuff. And he put it together in this podcast that illuminated some shadows potentially and pulled together some strengths and made suggestions. And one of them was based on one of my personality types, was basically a creative outlet is a non-negotiable for me. And you know, the creative aspects of my life do tend to fall to the wayside. I'll be like, oh, well, I'm creating a new program. I'm creating a program for a client. And although there's creativity there, I've shied away from really, you know, picking up a paintbrush or drawing. I'll dabble in it here and there, but I'm going to put more of a concerted effort into that on his recommendation. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Do you have anything in mind that you want to try besides like painting?
I like writing. I've been writing on and off my whole life, and I feel like there's a story or a book or a poem or a book of poems, or I don't know exactly what it is yet, but maybe soft talk acknowledge stepping into that a little bit more intentionally.
Did you ever have dreams of being? Yeah, I was just gonna say, did you ever have dreams of being like an author or blogging or anything like that?
Not really. I wanted to be a dentist, oddly enough. That's kind of what I grew up thinking I'd do, dentist. But through some gritty experiences and oopsies and mistakes, I found this path, and yeah. So painting will be the first thing that you try. I'm going to check him out. If he's inspired the world, but this Bob Ross fellow, perhaps he can inspire me. I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you.
Please let me know what you think about this. I was mesmerized last night. I couldn't go to sleep before it ended.
Oh, that's so cool. Why not? You know, I do believe in, you know, synchronicity, and there's little nuggets just all around us. If we're tuned in and if we're going at a pace that's not the typical North American pace, I do believe we have these opportunities to pick up on them. So I think this is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love painting. I paint not as often as I would like, but I definitely do take opportunities to paint. It's one of my creative outlets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's actually a great tool for like tapping back into like feminine embodiment type of work. I've done that too. So I recommend painting.
You have like canvases and you just go and create, or do you have a system, a process? What do you recommend? How do I get started?
Well, here's what I honestly grab a canvas and paint and do whatever feels right to you. Just go. And then you can experiment. I do a couple things. I do, I forgot what it's called, but you pour the paint, you pour the different kinds of paint, colors of paint into a cup, and then you do designs on a canvas that way. They're called like drip painting or something like that. And it's really, really cool. The other thing that I like to do is I am a content creator in Canva, and I absolutely love Canva. Like, I love Canva. I love to create t-shirts and mugs and portraits and all this other stuff in Canva. And then I will create it there and take it and transfer it onto a canvas.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah. So, those are two things that I do. Check them out and see what works for you. I love that you're exploring this part of you.
Yeah, so am I. I'm really stepping into this more feminine energy, surrender, chaos, and really finding enjoyment in that space. Totally. And that's what I envision, painting and it, having a little bit more space for those happy mistakes.
Yeah.
See what comes. That creative expression of.
You know what, Jen? Tell me what you think about this, because the fact that you just said that, my instant thing was, man, moms definitely can use so much, not so much, some help with like feminine embodiment, right? Like, I believe that, I've said this before and people look at me like I'm crazy. I really, as much feminine as being a mother is, I really believe that mothering is a masculine kind of, it becomes very masculine, because all you're doing is like doing, taking care, nurturing, like, and you just aren't in tune with this.
I agree. I love how you said that. That resonates very deeply for me. It's routines, it's schedules, it's here, there, it's the perfect pour, it's the milestone. Like, it is very systems, organized, or can be. I know that that's not the experience for a lot of women, or some women. It was for me. I leaned into that masculine space because I have strengths in that. That feels true. Yeah,
it's and then all the other things, right? Like, your body changes. You don't want to be touched on some days because you're so done with being like cuddled, whatever it is. And it really is a part of the space where I believe is so important. It affects so much. I mean, our relationships outside of our children, being in partnership becomes difficult, like all the things. So it's just one of those pieces that I feel doesn't get too much exposure, talk about just the feminine embodiment in motherhood, in partnership, in a family system. And go ahead.
Love the topic. I feel like we could do a whole episode on chatting about that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm involved in some mom groups and some fun groups, and I feel like that theme comes up, and I haven't heard it articulated the way you just said it. Yeah,
it's I think about this stuff. I just think about all the things that we need as moms, as women, right? Moms and partners, because at the end of the day, we're a woman, and those are the masks that we put on at different parts of our day.
Yeah.
And
then the hormones, the chaos, the adjusting, partners adjusting, mom, child adjusting. And I don't know if this was your experience. I felt like there was this image of mothering that it would be natural and easy and beautiful. My body's meant to do this, and it'll all just flow seamlessly. And that wasn't my experience. Breastfeeding was a struggle. It was painful. After I had 2 vaginal births, like nobody told me that would be a painful experience. It's like pain in the movies, but days later, recovering, trying to connect with my partner sexually afterwards, like, all of those pieces seemed like swept aside, that, it wasn't part of that mainstream conversation that was being happening, at least around me. So I felt like I'm getting this wrong. Like I'm not feeling that natural instant love and connection. I had postpartum depression, and not knowing that that's what that was and all that was happening, I was just like, I don't feel like this is like that beautiful movie scene where I'm handing my baby and we're breastfeeding and then off I go and I'm a mom. Transition was tricky.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my experience has just been it has been that there's a season to everything, and you're changing a lot, often.
Yeah.
your child is changing.
More like a typhoon for me. It wasn't winter, spring, fall, summer. It was like typhoon.
Yeah. It's like your child is changing, and you get the choice. You get the choice to change along with them or stay the same. And if you decide to stay the same, there may be some suffering. I don't know, like that. Yeah, that's the experience that I'm having, where you think that you've got it all figured out. You think you've got it all figured out, and then it changes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that I was aware of. I like change. I like transformation. I like transitions. I've been okay with it. Having kids has taught me that that's not always my choice, and that it's not always my schedule, and it's not always going to be my plan, that I have to roll with those resistance. Oh, okay, you're now this age and you need this and want this, and this way of soothing or comforting or learning isn't working anymore. Okay, so we have to be on, and really sliding into that comfort of transitions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious because this is the point in my life where I'm at. Did you know you wanted to? How did that transition for you from 1 to 2 go? 2 kids? Like how? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because I was curious about that.
So this is interesting. I'm from a family with 3 kids, and I always wanted 2. So my sister's 16 years older than my brother and I. So I feel like that had an impact or an influence on wanting 2, because my brother and I were really close, and my sister and I were really close. She just was older and had her life. So I read somewhere that it's common for families to decide on the number of kids they'll have based on their own personal experience sometimes. So I felt like having that dynamic with my brother at home with me growing up influence that. Like I loved having my brother around, even when I didn't like having him around. It was nice to have a sibling in the muck, right? So that was important for me. If I was going to have kids or no kids, that was a big choice. And then when it was, if we're fortunate enough and we can have children under the circumstances that we're willing to do, then great. And if not, that's okay too. We'll be happy with that.
Yeah. And
then when we had our first, I kind of feel like I always knew there would be another one if we could. Yeah. And that's, we were evenly scored at 2. So if my husband at the time had to take one, I could take the other. We could divide and conquer. There would be no little uprising with 3 kids against 2 adults. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like there's so much strategy in that. So yeah, now that I think about it, that was pretty strategic. And I knew that I wanted to have them about 2 years apart, allow my body to recover, and that they would be close, but not too close. And that was my thinking. And so far it's worked very nicely for us.
I laugh so hard because my husband and I talk about that and we say, right now we're winning. If we have another one, it's man on man defense. If we have 3, we're outnumbered. We're done.
One can always get away. If you're out in public, you've got, one each. Yeah. The other one, I don't know.
I don't know either. I know. And I'll tell you, we're in San Clemente, and the average that I see around here is like 3 or 4. So I'm like doing this every time I see a mom that's out that is managing her children in public, because that is a skill.
It is. Like, I have a few friends who have 3 kids, and I love them. I admire them. I also feel that way about a family of 3, as in mom, dad, or partners and one child, because they're getting creative with the one child family dynamic, providing entertainment for one, and so they all have my respect. Parenting, it takes a village.
Oh my God, definitely. Absolutely. I'll second you on that. Mothers in general, all kinds, all walks of life, my respect. Even more so, like, oh my God, I'm just like, women that are doing it on their own. God bless our sisters out there that are doing this on their own because they have to. And
I want to, yes, absolutely. And a shout out to the women who are part of that village of moms who might not have their own kids, maybe their aunts, maybe their, best friend to a mom, and they're showing up. They're not, their biological kids, and they're showing up in an awesome mom-like way, helping out, teaching and learning and loving these kids in the world that they technically don't have to, they're not responsible for them. And they do. Absolutely. They show up. I have some really great girlfriends who show up for my kids or other people's kids. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, that's important. It's definitely important to have that community that's willing to, right? That's willing to show up and is inspired to show up and does it so beautifully. So thank you for saying that, for sure. So Jen, here, tell me about Special Forces. What are you doing with men? I'd like to dive into that a little bit because it is one of the reasons why I was curious. I'm like, ooh, I want to know what Jen's doing. I want to know how she's helping these men, because I resonate with that as well. And so tell us a little bit about Special Forces and what you're doing there.
So the Special Forces experience was created by and is run by Jessica and Jeffrey DePazzi. So Jeff's my brother, Jess is my sister-in-law.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fun fact.
Jeff is awesome. Jess is awesome. I've met both of them. They came out to the gym in Chicago, and they're amazing.
So I get on this like little bit of a fence about it, because I'm like, I want to. He's my brother, so some people might devalue my connection there and all of those things. So I get a little bit weird and in my head about it. So I'm stepping fully into the fact that Jeff is my brother, Jess is my sister, and whether they were or not related to me, I do think that they're really good people. They come from this place of love and wanting to help the world, specifically men, because they both saw a need in the world for that. And I'm honored that they saw an organic fit for me in what they do with the Special Forces experience. And I've been loving it. I've been working with them. Their big event is the Process, an 8-day immersion experience up in Northern Ontario. And it really is this microcosm of life that these men are thrust into. And it's physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually challenging them to intentionally go through post-traumatic growth cycles, so that they're going through these hardships so that at the end they can have these insights and embody them and move forward with these lessons. all condensed into 8 days. And it's pretty intense and a lot of fun. And so working with them for the last few years in that, as I was coming out of public health and into my own business, I was really starting to enjoy working with men. And I always thought that I would work with moms and kids, help moms, help kids, help the world. And I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I completely forgot that kids have dads and that better men, better dads, better world, like it works that way as well. So working with these men and hearing their stories and connecting with them, there was just this energy that felt really natural working with them. So I've been working more and more with men, whether that's relationship issues, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, having these moments of awareness of, oh, I'm out of alignment with who I want to be and how I want to show up in this world. How do I go through that? And I'm sure you're aware of the stats on men having smaller and smaller groups of people that they can talk to and trust and confide in. So really intentionally, deliberately going out into the world and saying, hey guys, here's this space where you can come and explore what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And here are some tools and resources and practices that you might find helpful as you're exploring that. So yeah, that's how I came to work with men and the special forces experience.
That's amazing. I love that. It's like a rite of passage in a way, right? Like, or multiple rites of passage, I guess I would imagine.
Yes. And that's why I say it's this like microcosm of 8 days of life just condensed all. And no matter, whether the men make it to the end or they make it through the first 12 hours, they're walking away with what they needed, maybe not what they expected, but there's so much richness and wholeness in it. It's really beautiful to see.
Oh my God, it sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like it. And it sounds it's so like personal, right? Like what they're going through and what they're seeing and what they're experiencing, and for you to even be there to hold that space for them is so beautiful, Jen. So beautiful that you're doing that in the world. And you're working with men and women outside of the special forces, right? So tell us a little bit about what you do, Jen McMaster, lifestyle architect, and how that works.
So me independently, I offer coaching. So one-on-one coaching, small group coaching for men, for women, for couples, for families, really anybody who's looking to start creating instead of merely surviving in the world, consciously creating, stepping into alignment and finding more fulfillment, more joy, more meaning in the way they live. So as you can imagine, that can be different for everyone. So really working with them to customize what strategies, what interventions, what plan we're going to develop. And then I work with two other coaches developing Grace and Grit, an online retreat for women. So
love that.
Let
us know. Girl, tell us about it. Tell us about Grace and Grit too. I love it.
And Grit has been so fun. I just want to say this. I love working with men. I love working with women. They just are so different. They offer so much different energy, and yet there's so much similarity with that human experience, right? There's a common thread no matter who you are in this world. And that's been really fun. So Dr. Danielle McGinnis and Jessica DePazzi and I work together to put together the next iteration of Grace and Grit will be a 12-month program for women. We're calling it a women's circle. You come, you hang out, we talk about things. We have some tools and practices that you can take, you can implement, you can leave, you can circle back to. Really a nice space for us to learn, heal, and grow in. Really start stepping into your feminine power, learning a little bit about yourself in a safe space where we can hold up some mirrors, we can, provide some language, different learnings that have helped us personally and professionally along the way. And then also really leveraging that sense of community, other women. We learn so much. the groups from our participants, and so do the other participants. It's like we all have, you know, our own unique expertise on our human experiences, and when we share that, you never know how it's going to come together for somebody.
I know. That's why I love what you're doing in every facet of where you're at right now, because it is about the human experience, right? And we all have a different one.
We do, and that's okay.
And that is okay. Do you find, because I think this is awesome, do you find that working in those two areas, like specifically with women here, specifically with men here, and then together over here, that it's made you a better coach?
Yes, I think it's fair to say that every interaction and experience I have makes me a better coach. And being able to hear women explain what they're going through, what their experiences are, and then hearing men do the same, and then being able to be like, hey, like, how do we communicate this to each other? How do we expand our skill sets and how we're showing up for each other? So you might have a partner or a husband, a boyfriend, a brother, a father that, you know, over here in the women's arena might not be going so well. Okay, well, here, there's this experience that I'm collecting over here. How do we communicate? So yeah, really practical, you know, in the trenches learnings that I'm able to translate across.
Oh, I love that, Jen. Love it so much. Thank you for all the beautiful gifts you're bringing to this world and the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I honestly, like, I have to pinch myself sometimes. I love it. I love the people I work with, the coaches that I'm working with in different collective. Like, I love it all. It's so good.
Life is good. Life is good, girl.
It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So what's next for Jen McMaster? Tell us what's next for you. Anything you'd like to share with our audience before we sign off? What's next?
Ooh, great question. So I'm going to start painting.
Besides painting and besides watching Bob Ross on
Netflix. There will be no more children. So what else is next for me? You know what? I think I'm going to continue leaning into what rings true for me and allow those opportunities to come up. I'm working on a podcast called Finding Honor. So I want to get a little collection of that together and then put that out into the world. I'm working on another group with a fellow coach, Kayla Becker. So I've got my fingers and toes out there, and just super open and receptive to whatever comes my way and resonates. So stay tuned because there's going to be lots of exciting stuff.
Oh, yes. I'll be following. Why don't you let the women that are watching us and listening to us know where they can find you? I'll have to stay tuned with all the beautiful greatness that you've got going on.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. They can check out my website, jennifermcmaster.ca, and they can check me out on Instagram, jennifermcmaster_. I will caveat that with I'm building that space in a way that feels true to me. And I'm still exploring what that is. As we touched on a little bit earlier with TV and social media and the news and how that can influence and affect us, I'm trying to figure out how I exist in that space in a way that feels authentic and true to me. And that's been a work in progress.
Yeah, definitely. Girl, I'm excited for you. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on and joining me today. I want to be respectful of your time. I do have
to go and vote.
Go vote, Jen. It's voting day. Yeah, it's election day in Canada today, guys. Jen let me know before she came on the podcast. So she's going to go vote today.
Big day. Feel honored that I get to participate in this democracy.
Yes. Oh, Jen, thank you for joining me. I had so much fun, and I look forward to connecting with you again because I think this was very and we could have gone for way longer. We could have gone for way longer and all the things that we wanted to talk about. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your gifts. And Any last words for the Jefas, the boss moms out there in the universe?
I see you. I see you every day, mamas, and keep it up. Whether you're a mama now, you're thinking about being a mama, or you're a mom to somebody, fur baby, a fellow little human in the world, I see you. Keep it up. You're doing your best. I know that. And when you're ready for that next step, connect, reach out. There's so many great people out in this world who are ready and receptive to help you with anything that comes up and might be keeping you stuck, mamas.
Oh, beautifully said, mamas. You are worthy and already have what it takes to stress less, love more, and be unstoppable. We will see you guys next week. Ciao.